talking about how to start an LLC in Missouri. And what you can see here is a document, a checklist that we're going to be going through. I'm casting it from my computer. We're going to be talking about how to avoid the LLC dumpster fire and getting into a lot of other tools and resources for you when you're getting your LLC set up. But to really better explain this, what we need to do is kind of zoom out so that we can zoom in a little bit. And here's what I mean by that. When you're avoiding what I like to call the LLC dumpster fire, where you get an LLC set up and it's not done correctly, and 2-3 years down the line, you have a huge issue that costs you tons of money. This is usually how it happens right here. It's people that don't understand terms such as piercing the corporate veil, registered agents, commingling funds, pass-through taxation, or they don't understand how the LLC renewal process works, or they don't get their business licenses and permits set up. Now, if any of these things don't sound familiar to you right now, they will by the end of this video series here. And to better understand it, we're going to zoom out a little bit and talk about what an LLC actually does for your business. Now, we're going to click this right here and here and go and walk through this right now. So an LLC is a limited liability company, and it does two things for you. It offers limited liability protection and also pass-through taxation. The easiest way to go through this is talk about owning a coffee shop. Now, in this example, we're talking about that in terms of not owning an LLC, just owning a coffee shop, so like a sole proprietorship. What you can see here is an individual, the business owner in the center, and they have their personal home, personal car, personal bank account, but then they also have the business assets such as the business bank account, point of sale, the physical location, the espresso machine, the lights. All of this is connected directly back to that business owner, which creates a lot of liability. Now, this is going to be very easy to see when we open up this scenario where you own an LLC that owns the coffee shop. So now that business owner is on the left-hand side. He has his personal bank account, personal home, personal car. But on the right-hand side, what you see is that we're calling it Acme Coffee LLC. That LLC has all those assets underneath its control. The division in the middle, that red line that you can see there, that is something called the corporate veil. Now, if you remember at the beginning of the video, we talked about a term called piercing the corporate veil. We're also going to talk about commingling funds as an example of that right now in this video. What it happens is when you have an LLC, the reason you do that is you want to have this division here between your business and personal assets. So if you are sued, the person suing you can only come after your business assets. What the attorney suing you is going to try to do is something called piercing the corporate veil. What they'll do is they'll try to find a crack in your LLC, and if they're able to find it and the judge agrees with them, the judge is going to allow them to pierce the corporate veil, which essentially gets rid of this red division in between the business and personal assets so that they can come after your personal assets as well. So an example of this is commingling funds. What ends up happening a lot of times is people get their LLC set up and they don't set up a business bank account right away, and they start running funds for that new business through their personal bank account. So they have their personal transactions happening in the same bank account as the business transactions. If an attorney suing you were to find this and present it to the judge, and the judge agrees, again, they can come after both business and personal assets. So that is why you're setting up an LLC. Some people believe there's tax advantages to that. That's not really the case. So why don't we talk about that real quick right here? So this question here is, what is pass-through taxation? Well, let's say your first year in business of Acme Coffee LLC, you grossed $140,000, you had expenses of $90,000, and a net income of $50,000. First of all, that's a great first year. Like, I don't want you to start your new business and feel discouraged if your first year isn't great. This is about building on year after year, because you want to be able to do something that you can control, and then you can eventually make more income than you have right now. And then eventually too, you can start to hire other people to do things so that you're not required to run the business and be an operator. But in this particular case, the IRS, they are not taxing Acme Coffee LLC. What's happening is that $50,000 in net income is passing through to the business owner. Sometimes this is called flow-through taxation. I just wanted you to be aware of this. Now, in some instances, people will be like, oh, you should set up an LLC for tax deductions. Well, you can have tax deductions if you just had a sole proprietorship, just a basic setup. But what you can do, and there's a little note of this down here, is that in the future, you can apply an S-Corp designation to your LLC, which will help you reduce taxes. That's something that we're going to talk about in a future video, because this is a series right here. The next video too, we're going to talk about your different options for LLC formation. And then we're also going to talk about how to maintain your LLC. But what we want to do right now is, how do you actually get your LLC set up now that we have a better understanding of what it does for you? First off, you can get this checklist. There's a QR code on the screen that you can scan. There's a link in the description below. It is completely free for you, but it's got a lot of cool features to it. What you can see here, there's a glossary of terms, so extra terms that you may not be familiar with around your LLC. But the bonus section is really neat. Here you can go in and you can say there's an AI chatbot. So how to start an LLC, and I'm just going to put MO, Missouri. What this will do is the chatbot is actually going to create a list for you of the steps you want to take. It's also going to talk about registering an EIN as a quick button you can click here, which we're going to explain in this video as well. The yearly accounting calendar in here is really important. There's going to be videos to help support this in the series that explain this. All this stuff is available to you for free, so I highly suggest you get that. But now what you need to do is you need to figure out which route that you want to go. Do you want to go with the state website? Do you want to go through an online legal tool like an online LLC service? Or do you want to go through like a business attorney? It really depends on your situation. And again, our entire next video in this series is going to deep dive on this topic. For the sake of this video, what we're going to be talking about is going through the state website so we can further explain the LLC process. But as we go, I'll let you know like a little bit of teaser info of why you may want to consider one route over another. But like I said, we're going to go with the state website. You want to decide on your business name for your LLC. The common misconception here is that you need the perfect LLC name, and that's not true. The reason for that is in the case of Acme Coffee LLC, that's a horrible name, right? Let's say you wanted to be like Espresso Yourself Cafe. What you do is you have the LLC, and then underneath it, inside of it, you can have a fictitious name or a DBA, it's sometimes referred to as, doing business as, and that can be the brand name. So just know that when you're coming up with your LLC name, the name of your LLC doesn't have to necessarily be your brand name. Once you have a name figured out, and I highly suggest if you don't have one right now to go to like ChatGPT, it's a great resource for brainstorming. You can come up with a name and then you need to search the database to see if it's available in the state of Missouri. So this list right here, when you click this resource inside of the Notion document that you'll get, we're gonna look for Missouri. Let's see, there we are. And then what we're doing here is we have a business name. So Missouri Tigers, that's probably a common name. So if I do Tigers right here, what you can see is there's all these different tiger businesses with tigers in it. Now, if I just kind of hit some keys on the keyboard here and do a search, this is where you're going to see that there are no records to display right here. That is the information that you're looking for your name. Now, yes, you can have a name if it's like pretty generic and it doesn't fit within a business category. So maybe like the painting version of that is available. There's no Tigers painting, but there is Tigers Automotive kind of thing. But I just want you to know that this is how this works, and you need to go to this database to verify that your name is available for you before you file your articles of organization. Now, the articles of organization right here, that is the actual document, the PDF, whether you do it online or you mail it in. That is the articles of organization, is the information that you provide that sets up your LLC. There is a registration fee for that, which we'll get to in a minute. But before you go through the articles of organization, sometimes there's this half step that some people want to take, which is registering your LLC name, which can be done on the state site. This is kind of like, let's say you want to set up a website, but you don't have the time or resources yet to actually build the entire website. Well, what do? You may go and buy the domain name just to secure the domain name. You can do the same thing for an LLC where you can register an LLC name, but that is not the same as filing the articles of organization. For the articles of organization, there's a state directory list link here again. I can just show that to you right here. That's going to pop this open, and the bullet points here are explaining what goes into the articles of organization, but I'm going to explain that in further detail as we go on the state website and open that up. Now, why don't we take a zoom in right here and just kind of go over some of the things that are worth explaining here. You'll see right here, there's a $105 submission filing fee. So that $105, there is no way around that filing fee. You are paying that whether you go through the state website, an online legal tool, a business attorney, you're paying that $105. If you're watching this in the future beyond 2024, there's a chance it's gone up, but I just wanted you to be aware of that fee. What you'll do is you'll put the name of your limited liability company, the purpose of why it's being organized, the name and address of it, of the company's registered agent. All right, this is really important. Another one of the items on our list. What is a registered agent exactly? It's a third party that handles important information and documentation for your business. Now, let's go back to the coffee shop. Let's say that your coffee shop was sued. Somebody got injured at the coffee shop. When you're being sued, you're going to get a service of process notice. This is basically saying that you need to show up in court. The registered agent is going to make sure that you're getting that documentation and also that you have all your documents in a row for when you do go to court. So that's why a registered agent is really important. And one of the downsides of the state website is they just say, who's your registered agent? They may give you a little bit of information. There are two rules around it: is they have to be located in Missouri and it has to be a physical mailing address. P.O. boxes are not allowed. Now, the state website, they're not going to help you with a professional registered agent service. If you use an online legal tool, they will have those services for you, but it's an additional fee. What I've seen is it ranges anywhere from free for the first year and it goes all the way up to $250. But in the next video, we're going to be kind of deep diving on that further and showing you how you can get a free registered agent for the first year. But it's really important that you have a good registered agent to help you. The management of the limited liability company is vested in the managers or members. Number 5 is worth mentioning right here. This is a little interesting because it's like the liability company is to dissolve and the number of years the limited liability company is to continue, which may be a number or perpetual. What is that saying? Most businesses are perpetual. You're not starting up this LLC to close it down in a year. Every once in a while there is that case, but you can just write perpetual there. The name and street address of each organizer of the LLC. It says here organizers are not required to be members, managers, or owners. In your particular case, if you're doing this yourself, it's all going to be the same. Then it's asking if you want like a series LLC. We're going to get to this in the next video in this series of this video series and explaining what a series LLC is. But then you'll go through the principal office address, the effective date that this is filed on, and then simply signing and mailing this in. Now you can go through the state website, but what I'll say is the state websites are pretty ugly and hard to manage. Usually the online LLC services I prefer because they offer an initial package that is free plus state fee. So it's the same price if you go through those services, but there's a lot of upsells and different things to consider if you're going that route. So let's say you've assigned a registered agent, you filed your articles of organization. Another thing to consider is creating an LLC operating agreement. But it's one of those situations where it's an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. The reason I say that is, let's say that you had a business partner in your coffee shop and you guys do great. You end up actually building out 20 different locations. And then all of a sudden the business partner one day says they want out of the business. Well, how do you handle that situation? Typically what happens is he's going to get an attorney and it's going to be a lot of litigations and it might be tens of thousands of dollars to figure out what this person is owed depending on how it goes, right? If you have an operating agreement, what it's going to do is it's going to spell out who the original founding members are, what their roles and responsibilities are, but also things like what happens if somebody wants to exit the LLC. When those things are spelled out day one, it makes it much easier when those things pop up in the future. So that's why an operating agreement is always a good idea. Next, what I want to talk about is after LLC formation. One thing you can do here is set up an EIN. There's an IRS link here that we're going to click and open up. And an EIN is an employment identification number. It's basically a social security number for the IRS for your business. It's a way for them to identify your business. You can set up this EIN for free on this page. And the reason you'd want one is if you're going to run payroll, you have people on payroll, you're going to need an EIN. Also, when you're applying for things such as like office space or a business loan or getting like insurance, these types of things, having an EIN looks a lot more professional than putting your own social security number on there. So it's another way to look more professional in these different services that you may be engaging with in the future. After the EIN setup, we also want to obtain business licenses and permits for your LLC. There's a really nice resource here from the SBA, and if you actually scroll down a little bit, you can put in your state of Missouri here and then see different things in your state and territory. But here's what I'd like to do in this particular case is I want to just use another example. Let's say that you were opening up a brewery. Now, a brewery, you're brewing beer, distributing beer, and potentially serving beer at the physical location. Each of those things may require a different license or permit, and those can be needed on the federal level, the state level, and the local level. That's right, your own town or city may require you to have licenses and permits when the state's going to require them, and also on the federal level. Again, if you go through the state website to set up your LLC, they're only going to help you on the state level for the licenses and permits, and they say good luck on the other stuff. What I would suggest is you can call your town clerk and just say, hey, I'm thinking about setting up this business. I'm just wondering in our town, is there any kind of licenses and permits that I need to know about? Because they may even be able to direct you like, hey, on the county level, there's something you need to consider. The LLC services, when you're using those online, they actually provide this. One in particular that we're going to talk about in the next video, they provide this research for you. It's an additional fee, but again, that's a nice feature to have when you're going through the online legal tools if you're worried about your licenses and permits. Now, in the next video, what we're going to be going over are these items right here. There's fees associated with setting up your LLC. We covered the $105 fee, but we're going to get into this calculator down below. It's embedded right into this document. It's going to show you for the first 5 years down to the dollar how much it costs to manage that LLC going forward. We have some star ratings that we're going to break down of comparing business attorneys versus online LLC services in your state website. This one's really interesting. This is why the state website can become a pain. And we're going to be talking about domestic and foreign LLCs and breaking that down for you. And then lastly, we're going to get into questions worth asking. So one of these right here is the LLC for rental properties? In the next video, we're going to talk about series LLCs and what that is. So this is going to be really helpful. Even if these questions aren't relevant to you today, they may be in the future. So it gives you a better understanding of exactly what you're getting into. And What we're going to be really breaking down in the next video is what the best path is for you when you get your LLC set up. And we're also going to make sure that you don't overspend when you do it, because there's certain service providers out there that are way too expensive. So I'm going to catch you in that next video. And again, I highly suggest that you get this checklist for yourself for free. There's a link in the description below. All right, I'll catch you in the next video.